Hey, Ocklawahaboy Rocks here. And it is not Thunder Egg Thursday, it's Tuesday. I don't know since when I might have ever made you a Tuesday video, 7, 8 months ago maybe. Well, if I looked at my channel I could tell, but it's been a while. And I've been wanting to have time to edit this video for quite some time. It's the middle of December 2023 right now. In the middle of February 2023, so 10 months ago, I was out in Las Vegas, Nevada. And there's a couple of locations in some of the guidebooks in the Muddy Mountains area. Muddy Mountains are near the Valley of Fire State Park, but not in the park, out on the public lands outside the park. And I had some locations out of the guidebook, and I had location for this stuff. This is a nice lavender agate, and an Instagram rockhound that I was communicating with gave me the location for this, where they had gone on a field trip. And I was unable to reach this in the vehicle I had access to out there, and the locations in the guidebook were kind of meh, but I did find some really neat stuff. That's why I wanted to make this video for so long. I think this day was really what rockhounding is all about, at least rockhounding by yourself. You've got all the camaraderie, family stuff that can go along with rockhounding. But if you're going to rockhound by yourself, this was, to me, about as good as it gets for a day out in the wilderness. So let's hop out to the Muddy Mountains of Nevada 10 months ago, and then we'll come back and look at some material that I've got under my left elbow at the moment. All right, see you in a bit. There's supposed to be some pale blue to purple chalcedony in these areas, and we know how blue chalcedony agate goes. Sometimes it's not really that blue, not really that purple. This was an approximate location, said prominent cliff. I'm guessing that's up there. So I'm going to scurry down in this wash, check the wash, check up over towards where it gets steep, and then maybe work my way back down towards the sandstone, see if I can find anything. And I think I'll find something, because there's even a little bit of white chalcedony mixed in down here. There's always lots of rock to look at in these washes. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. So here's an interesting one. I'm not going to feign to know what those different materials are. That would be a dang cool yard rock. There's a piece that's at least got some chalcedony on it. So I'll throw that in the bag just because I hadn't picked up much. Here's one I just picked up out of this wash. This is something you can find all over around Moab. It's essentially a type of concretion, septarian concretion. So you get a sedimentary mud type of rock And as it dries, it gets cracks in it, and then those can fill in with agate or calcite or whatever. In this case, agate. Jasper, more correctly, probably. White streaks of chalcedony and probably some red jasper. Well, I'm a little bit on the clock today, and I've got several places I want to visit. This is nice here, some of these big old cacti, and got some interesting rocks, but not that superb. So I'm going to follow this wash down to the main wash, back to my truck over there, and see if I can go try another spot. All right, back at the truck. I don't know, 10 pounds of stuff, some septarian material, some low-grade chalcedony from the first spot, and I'm gonna go to the second approximate location and look in some normal places you would expect to find rocks. So yeah, I think somewhere back there is where I'm supposed to be looking. It just didn't look like a good place to get out and look. And the actual real coordinates that I have are another 5 miles down that way, and I don't know whether I'm up for another 5 miles of this road or not. It's not been the best two-wheel drive road. All right, y'all, I turned around. It was just 6.4 miles of this road to get to the known purple agate location. I have some material from there thanks to Instagram friend. I think I've showed you some of that. So I'm looking at hour and a half to get back there if the road doesn't get any worse. I got 3.5 miles back to the better part of the road, which is 45 minutes. So that purple agate can stay where it is. You know, driving kind of slow, you look at the road cuts, and there's definitely some of this that I would call Wonderstone. Yeah, not great stuff, but definitely I would put it in that category. Okay, I decided to come back to this second approximate location I had. As nearly as I can read in the description, the cliffs behind me are where they say the purple agate comes from, and then I should be looking down in the washes for it. So we'll see. There's some cooler pieces of Wonderstone in here. If I pass back this way, I might bring that one home. I mean, definitely a beautiful place to wander around. Oh, look at this piece of material, septarian type stuff. That's going to have to go in one of my rock gardens. That is just too cool looking. All right, if I got the right cliffs, could be those over there. If I got the right cliffs that they were talking about, I would think this would have to be the wash down here. So I will walk a little ways in both directions and see if I see anything that looks like chalcedony-agate-jasper. Well, I just no sooner put my phone in my pocket from the last little clip than I found this. It's kind of an interesting color. And then I saw something else down here. That's kind of neat. So, oh, and what's this? Yep, that's an interesting color. Not purple, but yeah. So I'm thinking this wash is going to be worth walking. Definitely some interesting material in here. Here we've got a piece of a nodule. That's kind of neat. And then over here, this is something someone else had set up here. My sunshine went away. Makes me wish I had brought my backpack. That's just laying there. This is just laying there. Yep. Gonna keep looking. Still looking for agate and back to finding Wonderstone. It's a nice little piece as an example from Nevada instead of Utah. It's a fair amount. It's awfully porous. It's not going to take a polish. I kind of climbed up out of the wash. I don't know if you can see my truck over there. Maybe you can make the road out. But I decided if I could see if I could find any agate-chalcedony as I work my way up here. All right, take a look at some of these. Very pretty. Oh, that one just fell apart. Very pretty. Again, not lapidary quality, but very pretty pieces of Wonderstone. Definitely should have brought the backpack. I'm not going to try and pack this rock out of here because of the fractures. It's a pretty light rock for the size, but that is some pretty material. Got a pretty pretty cactus there. Gorgeous winter day. It's probably 50 degrees with a light breeze. I'll take it. I left my bag full of mostly Wonderstone now, back on a rock where I need to turn to go back to the truck. And found that. And that. So I'm down to pockets now. If I keep finding good stuff, I may have to take that bag up to the truck. It's about 10 minutes back up that wash. Have a sandwich and come back. We'll see what else I find in here. I'm obviously not the first one to have been poking around. Darn it, I just saw the tip of this rock peeking up out of the sand here. Really don't have room to carry it back out. But it is a piece that would fit in the saw just super well. And I've got some, looks like junk rock over here, but a really good piece of agate, chalcedony there. Decisions. Let's talk two-wheel drive on what probably should be a four-wheel drive road for a minute. If you can hear me over all the rattling. Though I spent most of my life driving two-wheel drive trucks in Florida, so the nice thing about out here, even though it's much more rough and hilly, at least in a lot of these sections, you got a hard road bed. So that puts you in, gives you a lot of advantages over the sugar sand where I live. Now, down in, or up, I guess, in southern Utah, they've got that blow sand, I think they call it, which is worse than the sand we have in Florida. But I'm in a vehicle today that I have some clearance, and I've got some time, so I don't have to be anywhere in a hurry. I'm pretty good at picking lines. That's really important when you got two-wheel drive, because you can't really afford for anything to slip, or you're not gonna be going anywhere. The worst part is turning around. I've had to turn around several times today, and the couple of times that I have gotten myself in a little bit of a pickle has been turning around. And most of the people whom I've come up on that have been stuck, it's been turning around. So when you're in an area like this, like what I'm looking at right now, you don't even think about turning around. It's worth it to drive a mile in the direction that you don't want to go in order to have a good spot to turn around. So before you start somewhere, you have to understand that you've got to go forward until you got a good wide solid spot to turn around, or you're going to be in trouble. That was one of the trickier sections that I've been on today, but not the trickiest, I don't think. Well, I've got about 2.5 miles of this. I'm averaging about 4 miles an hour, so I'm just gonna crawl my way on back to the last spot that I'm gonna look at rocks, and then it'll be graded road back to the paved road back to the interstate. Well, unfortunately, I've got to pay too much attention to the road to see much of this scenery that you're seeing, but it is a beautiful area. There's snow in the distance. It is, what does the truck say, 57 degrees out, a little bit of breeze. So can't ask for too much more on a rock hounding day. All right, so here is the material. This little concretion. Not going to cut that open. There's not going to be anything in it. It's just a neat little sandstone concretion. And then this little thing. Some of this stuff I just picked up because I thought it was interesting. That almost looks like it has some banding, some chalcedony. So was this a septarian? Was it a geode? What was it? I don't know. So I might put an edge on that. Then I got some of this septarian-like material. Some jasper all spider webbed in there. So this is probably going straight to the rock garden. Got a little chalcedony through there. I can't really see that cutting this is gonna make it look any cooler than it does right now. So that's straight to the rock garden. Then all this Wonderstone. I can't really show you texture very well, I guess if I put it under the microscope. But this is very coarse. This is not like the Vernon Wonderstone from Utah that kind of polishes up. But we're going to put a couple of face cuts on some of these and sand them and see if that'll make any of these colors stay. And then over here in the chalcedony pile, some of that, I'm guessing, seam agate and chalcedony that I picked up out of that wash. I'm guessing this is probably just jasper, but it all has that microcrystalline quartz ring to it. So I'm looking forward to cutting some of this. And, you know, I don't really know what I saw in this rock. I thought it was interesting enough to bring back. So I might throw it on the big saw and cut it. This one, I think I showed it on the video, kind of a root beer looking color. So I'm going to cut that. Anyway, going to cut some of these things, see what I can get out of them and what they look like cut. Victim number one is loaded on the big slab saw. About half of this rock or more is just junk rock, but there's a lot more chalcedony on this back side, so I'm going to take a couple slabs. You may be able to hear the big slab saw going inside the garage in the background. I'm going to cut this little piece of what appears to be some kind of clear seam material on the little 10-inch saw. All right, here is the material I cut. Some pretty nice looking stuff. So this piece I thought was going to be a piece of clear chalcedony. Very lovely lavender color, so I found some purple agate, whether I was in where I thought it should be or not. The Wonderstone looks very pretty wet. I'm going to do a little bit of sanding on it and see how that looks. This piece, seam material, fairly boring jasper, so I'm not going to do anything with it. This was the great big chunk. So, well, probably going to try and take a cab or two out of this area. This area will just break apart. And then this material, this, where my thumb is very similar, but I kind of sliced a piece off that I'm going to try and make a cab out of. Okay, so I've got some sanding to do, pick a cab out of one of these, and a cab out of this. All right, I worked this material as much as I'm going to, so let's look at what I cut. This is the piece I said I wasn't going to work, and I didn't. Now let's move on to the Wonderstone. Not as nice as the Vernon, Utah Wonderstone, but just a couple of minutes sanding on it, and you see it did make a difference. I think it's worth having a couple of pieces like that sitting around in the rock garden or on the shelf. Let's move over to this thin seam here. So I cut a piece off of there, left the back on it. There's room for improvement on the polish, but not a bad little freeform cab. Then pretty much the same material, but this was a thicker piece, so I got the cab going kind of in a different direction, vertically versus horizontally. So not bad, got some shine on it. Then this piece I thought was going to be clear chalcedony that I got some lavender on. And I just sprayed my cabs a little bit here, which I didn't want to do. But a lovely lavender color on those. Again, room for improvement on the polish, but shiny enough. And I've got this piece left, so there's probably a couple more really good lavender cabs in that. So there you have it. I was a rock hound in hog heaven out there in the muddy mountains near Las Vegas, Nevada. Had a vague location, just a pin on a map without the coordinates. So all I had to go by was kind of looking at the map and saying, okay, this relates to this, and I'm going to try and go over here. It was just a pin in a picture on a map. And I did find the purple agate that it said was there, and the Wonderstone was a surprise. There is Wonderstone that you pass. If you look at the guidebooks, there's an area that's two-wheel drive accessible, easily two-wheel drive accessible, where some quarried Wonderstone has been dumped and you can go through the piles. And it says in there that this stuff doesn't take a good polish. I think you could get sort of a polish on it if you kept working it, but that I think is a little bit better than what was in that pile. I did get there by two-wheel drive. It was a little difficult and I couldn't quite get to where I was wanting to get, but again, to me it's kind of what rock hounding's all about. Get out there and find something you're not expecting to find. So hope you enjoyed looking at that material, seeing it get cut, seeing it get worked, and I will see you next time.